Welcome everyone, and thank you for taking the time to engage in this important training. Today, we'll be looking at unconscious bias, what it is, how it plays out in schools, and most importantly, how we as educators can actively reduce its impact. This session isn't about blame, it's about awareness and growth. All of us, myself included, have unconscious biases. The goal is to understand them so that we can create a more equitable and supportive environment for all of our students. By the end of this session, you will understand what unconscious bias is and how it affects both teaching and learning, recognise different types of bias that can appear in schools, both in classrooms and in the staff room, explore strategies to reduce bias and foster inclusion. I encourage you to reflect honestly and share openly in discussions because this is a safe space for learning. So let's start with a short activity. Look at the images on the screen or think of someone you just met recently. What's your first impression of each person? How quickly did you form that opinion? Turn to the person next to you or form small groups and discuss what influenced that first impression. Was it clothing, facial expression, accent, or something else? You may pause now. What we just experienced is a great example of how our brains make snap judgments. This doesn't make us bad people, it makes us human. The key is becoming aware of those judgments so they don't unfairly influence how we treat others. So what is unconscious bias? Well, unconscious bias is when our brain makes quick decisions about people without us even realizing it. For example, many people assume boys are more likely to misbehave than girls. These biases are automatic and unintentional. Our brains use shortcuts to process information quickly. Psychologists call this fast thinking. It helps us survive, but it can also lead to unfair assumptions. The alternative is slow thinking, where we pause and reflect before acting. As teachers, learning to slow down in certain moments can make a huge difference. Unconscious bias isn't new. Throughout history, people have formed hierarchies and stereotypes, often reinforced by culture, media, and institutions. Schools are not isolated from this. In fact, they can either reinforce bias or actively challenge it. This is why our role as educators is so powerful. We shape not only what children learn, but also how they see themselves. Unconscious bias isn't new. Throughout history, people have formed hierarchies and stereotypes, often reinforced by culture, media, and institutions. Schools are not isolated from this. In fact, they can either reinforce bias or actively challenge it. This is why our role as educators is so powerful. We shape not only what children learn, but also how they see themselves. There are several common types of bias that appear in school settings. Race bias, judging a student's behaviour or ability based on their race. Gender bias, assuming boys or girls are better at certain subjects or roles. Name bias, treating students differently because of their name. For example, assuming Mohammed must be an English learner. Halo horns effect, letting one good or bad trait colour your whole judgment of a student. Affinity bias, preferring students who remind us of ourselves. Perception bias, applying broad stereotypes to whole groups. As I describe these, think about whether you've seen or maybe even unconsciously acted on these biases in your own experience. Let's look at some real-life school scenarios. Scenario 1. A boy named Mohammed is assumed to be an English as a second language learner. Scenario 2. A female PE teacher is questioned more than her male colleague. Scenario 3. Girls are assumed to be weaker at maths. In small groups, discuss what assumptions are being made here. How could you challenge or respond in the moment? Feel free to pause now. Remember, it's not about pointing fingers, it's about noticing how easily bias creeps into everyday situations. So, let's take a look at some possible answers. For scenario 1, where Mohammed was assumed to be ESL, The assumption could be that all students with foreign sounding names are English learners or not born in England. The challenge is therefore for you to treat each student as an individual and, if need be, ask rather than assume. For scenario 2, with the female PE teacher who's questioned, the assumption is that male teachers are more knowledgeable about sport. Challenge this idea by highlighting her qualifications and equal expertise. Support her authority publicly. And for scenario 3, the idea that girls are weaker in maths, are less capable in STEM subjects. So the challenge is to use positive role models, female mathematicians or scientists, give equal encouragement and opportunities. The impact of unconscious bias in schools is huge. It can affect how we treat students, who we praise and who we discipline, the grades and opportunities that we give, who gets picked for leadership roles or classroom responsibilities, even staff recruitment and promotion. Bias doesn't just affect individuals, it shapes the whole school culture, and over time it can affect a student's self-esteem, sense of belonging, and long-term outcomes. And why? All because of a lie about who is the most superior that was created in the 15th century. It seems ridiculous, doesn't it? Now, I'd like you to reflect individually. On your grid, write down a bias you've noticed in your classroom, one area where you could challenge bias, a positive change you'd like to try. Take a few minutes for this. This isn't about sharing unless you want to. It's about self-awareness and making a small, realistic commitment to change. Feel free to pause now. You may have noticed a range of biases. For example, you may often call on more confident students first to answer questions. You may assume the quiet students are less engaged. You may give more praise to boys in sport. You may expect better handwriting from girls. So the areas to challenge, well, you need to give equal opportunities to quieter students. You should avoid assuming a student's ability based on their behaviour. You should check whether you're giving balanced feedback across genders and ethnicities. And a potential positive change, track who you call on during lessons. Use diverse names and examples. Regularly review discipline records for bias and invite all parents to engage equally, not just the most visible ones. So it's all good and well saying, let's do this and let's do that, but what practical steps can we take? Here's an example of inclusive classroom practice. A teacher keeps track of who they give feedback to, ensuring no group is overlooked. They deliberately use names from different cultures in their examples. They build strong relationships with all families, not just the ones they feel most comfortable with. These are small changes, but together they shift the classroom culture in a massive way. Bias can show up in subtle decisions such as who we choose for leadership roles, whether we assume some students are less able, how equally we engage with all parents. In your groups, discuss where might bias slip into your own decision making. What strategies could help you pause and reflect before acting? Feel free to pause now. The more we make bias visible, the easier it is to challenge. So, in terms of leadership roles, you may be saying things like, oh, I usually choose the same responsible students without giving others a chance, or I tend to pick outspoken students, overlooking quieter ones. Assuming, sometimes I assume students with lower test scores can't achieve much higher. I may underestimate SEND pupils in group work. And getting parents engaged, well, you may find it easier to connect with parents who are fluent in English. You may notice some parents avoid school because they don't feel welcome. Equity isn't about treating everyone the same, it's about ensuring fair access to opportunities, voice, and representation. Remember, this training is just a starting point. To keep moving forward, review school policies to check for bias, continue CPD on inclusion and equity, listen to student voice. They often see things that we don't. Adapt your curriculum to reflect diversity and inclusion. This isn't a one-off task, it's an ongoing journey. The following clip demonstrates microaggressions in action. So a microaggression is a small act that sends a big message, often unintentionally. It can make people feel othered or as if they are less important. Take a look at the clip to see if you can spot the microaggressions and biases.
Right, year 8. Okay, today we're looking at Linton Kwesi Johnson, a very important poet. He wrote in Jamaican patois, which brings rhythm and authenticity to his work. Let's have a volunteer to read aloud.
Oh, sir, pick me.
Actually, Keisha, can you give it a go, please?
Ah, sir, it's Keisha. Remember I told you a few other times as well?
Yes. Keisha, could you do this, please? Read it out in the proper, the authentic Jamaican accent. It'll sound so much better coming from you.
Sir, I'm not Jamaican. My family's Nigerian.
But you can still give it a try, can't you, Keisha? You'll have the rhythm for it. Go on.
Yeah, I mean, you'll sound way better than us anyway, just do it.
I don't really want to do it, sir.
Such a whiner.
I know, yeah. Why don't you just do it? We'll all sound stupid if we do it.
Oh, all right then, Keisha. I'll ask. Okay. Yeah, Lily, you volunteered, didn't you, before?
All right, nobody laugh at me, okay? If I was a tap, natch,
She can't
poet,
properly, can she? It's just
like Chris
so bad. She speaks. You should have done it.
Oggy
You should have done it.
Derek
If you did
Walcott,
Definitely.
R.
Oh, I'm
T.S.
sorry. I'm
Eliot.
so sorry there, Lily. There's somebody there talking behind you. Is that you, Keisha? Can you stop talking?
I wasn't talking, sir. That was Jordan, not me. Whoa, I can't believe the lie. That's just shocked me.
Very
to
funny,
death.
Jordan. Very funny. You do have a caution, Keisha, because that was definitely a girl's voice from that side of the room. No more on this topic. Right, so I wanted us to discuss a little bit more about this poem versus the one we did last week.
Ha ha, you got a caution.
We can see all about the passion. We can see all about the...
Feedback. So before we finish, I'd love to hear your feedback. What did you find useful today? What could be improved? And most importantly, what's one action you'll take away from this session? Thank you for your honesty, your reflection, and your commitment to making education fairer for all.